All right, well, several of you are familiar with Ryan because you've told me that how excited you are that he's coming. And I'll just go through some of this for those who don't know. He's a best-selling author, strategic advisor, highly sought-after speakerpreneur, which I think you maybe coined that word. It's cool, yeah. With an incredible reach of over 50,000 people every month, his words have the power to transform lives. Each year, he dedicates his expertise to the growth of over 30,000 leaders, spanning the spectrum from Fortune 100 companies to elite professional sports teams. Ryan's the creative mind behind the USA Today bestselling book, Chasing Failure: How Falling Short Sets You Up for Success. This transformative book has guided countless individuals on their journey to turn setbacks into stepping stones towards success. His latest release, Leveling Up, 12 Questions to Elevate Your Personal and Professional Development, has ascended to the ranks of Wall Street Journal bestsellers list. And I want to just add in here too, so Ryan's so gracious because he is actually flying out to speak with Disney in the morning, and he kind of worked us in. So bless you for that. yeah. So he's amazing. We're super excited. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, Ryan. So let's join me in welcoming Ryan Leak.
Thank you, Jenna. Is my mic on? We're good. What's going on? My name is Ryan Leak. It is an absolute privilege to be with you. I had the wonderful opportunity to go to a high school called Christian Life High School. It's a private school in the Chicagoland area, Rockford, Illinois. If you actually know where Rockford is, that's offensive to you because you actually know what Chicago is, but Rockford is a suburb of Chicago. And I always love being able to speak to groups of people that I could really relate to, because especially for the students that are in the room, because it's easy to come to a school like this and think that this is just normal, and it's not normal. You are in a place that is absolutely extraordinary. And one of the things that I always look back on that really challenges me today, even in how I'm raising our children along with my wife, I've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, I think about how many of the students that I went to school with that had a thriving relationship with the Lord, that somehow, some way walked away from their relationship with the Lord after high school. And I just think, man, if only they had a little bit more resilience. Some things happened in their life that just made them go, you know what, I'm just going to go in a different direction. And I just want to encourage every student here, before we jump into today's talk, I would just encourage you to hold on to your relationship with the Lord. It will be the thing that will sustain you through life's toughest trials. Today, we are going to talk about chasing failure, which on the onset, it's like, why in the world would we want to do that? We have been taught since we were little that failure is not an option. But just raise your hand really quick if you've ever failed. Just touch some sky, all right? Just look around. It's an option, okay? I'm just letting you know. It's an option, and we're still here, and we're still alive today. And so today, I want you to know I am a failure enthusiast, okay? I love failure. I believe that we can learn more from failure than we can from success. I believe failure teaches a class that success never will. And so today, I'm going to give you 6 lessons I've learned from chasing failure. I believe this is going to help you as parents raise resilient Christian kids. I believe if you're a student here, it's going to help you be a resilient person. The first lesson is this. There's no version of our life that isn't risky. There is no version of our life that isn't risky. Whenever we begin to take risks, we think, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm not sure. But here's what I've learned. There's equal risk in trying something new as there is in trying nothing at all. When you try something new, you could risk embarrassment. When you try nothing at all, you could risk irrelevance. It's all risky. Investing is risky. Not investing is risky. It's all risky. You've got to make a decision about your life to say, okay, am I going to have a life that I actually enjoy and actually learn to fall in love with taking risk and putting yourself out there, because the world is changing so fast. And if you're not willing to take a risk, you will get left behind. Bless you. I'm naturally a risk taker. The biggest risk I ever took was when I asked my girlfriend to marry me. This is a picture of my wife. Now, when people see a picture of my wife, they typically think to themselves, how in the world did he get her? Let me explain. When my girlfriend and I were dating, I overheard her tell a friend that she thought it would be cool to get engaged and married on the same day. I had absolutely no idea what that meant, and so I guessed and began planning our wedding behind her back over the course of 2 years. I was in 11 weddings before I was ever in my own. Apparently, I was a good friend in college because people I barely knew kept asking me to be in their wedding, and I just kept saying yes for some odd reason, and I would bring my girlfriend to each wedding, and I would take copious notes on what she liked and didn't like about each wedding. The 11th wedding was about 3 weeks before the surprise engagement, and the groom walks up to me and he says, "Hey, I hear you're doing a surprise wedding." I said, "Can you keep your voice down? It's a surprise, dude. You need to chill." And he says, "Man, whatever you do, don't mess up the cake." I said, "Dude, it's just cake. It's not that big of a deal." He goes, "Dude, trust me, it's not just cake. I have learned my lesson the hard way. It is not just cake." So I meander on over to my girlfriend at the time and I say, hey, babe, what do you think about this cake?" She says, "It's okay. I got a better one on Pinterest." I didn't know what Pinterest was. So I go to Pinterest.com and I type in my girlfriend's name, and a board pops up entitled My Dream Wedding, and it had 242 photos of everything that she would want in a wedding. And I thought to myself, this would have been helpful 2 years ago. Nevertheless, June 7, 2013, I get down on one knee. I say, "Amanda, will you marry me?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Today." And we opened up a lounge room door, and about 85 of our family and friends were standing in there with a sign that said, "Today." We rolled in a dress, hairstylist, makeup artist, everything that you would need to get engaged and married on the same day. We were engaged for a real long time, a solid 11 hours. Had a friend film the whole thing. It's on YouTube. It's called The Surprise Wedding. It's got about 1.5 million views. And when people watch The Surprise Wedding, the number one question that I get is, "Well, Ryan, what if she said no?" Which is a really good question if you've got a wedding on the heels of an engagement. But you know what's interesting about this question is it's just not the question that I face. It's the question we all face when we think about something that we would do if we knew that we couldn't fail. It's not what if she said no. Well, it's what if they say no? What if my parents say no? What if my boss says no? What if they don't like my idea? What if nobody subscribes? What if nobody listens? What if nobody reads? What if? And this is what I want you to know. We can spend a great deal of energy thinking about this question for the rest of our life. In fact, you and I are so good at envisioning it going bad that we sometimes never even get started. And I just want to let you know, the amount of energy that we could spend on this question is the same amount of energy we could spend on this one. What if they say yes? I think that you and I are gathered in this auditorium for a reason, for you to start going in a new direction in your life. And perhaps the only reason we're here together is so that you can start envisioning it going well for yourself. If you're honest, some of you have been wildly mean to yourself in your mind. Our best ideas sometimes never even make it out of our mouth because we have spent so much time talking ourselves out of being brave. Do you know what the word encourage means? It means to put courage in someone else to be able to do something they normally wouldn't do. Tonight, I am trying to put courage in you to step out in faith, to get out of the boat, to do something that you normally wouldn't do, because I believe that is exactly how you and I can reach our potential. Sometimes we want tried and true, but for that to happen, somebody has to try. And I like to say, why not you? Why not me? Why can't we be the ones that say, hey, we're going to be the ones that try? Sometimes we want a blueprint, somebody else to map it out for us. But sometimes God calls us to pick up a shovel and pave a way for somebody else. The second thing that's vitally important to understand about chasing failure, and this is something you want your kids to understand at a very high level. All failures aren't created equal. All failures are not created equal. Every failure has a different price tag. For example, forgetting to cancel a subscription. You know, you sign up for a subscription, 7-day free trial. Here comes day 8, your card gets charged, $14.99. That's a failure. You messed up. you can come back from $14.99, okay? Like that's a oops, my bad. All right, we can come back from that. Going to Target without a budget, that's a whole nother level of failure, okay? I know Studio McGee got their new stuff in there, and you went in to get some eggs, you left with a couch. There's levels to this thing. It can happen to any one of us. It's another level of failure. There are people that sometimes have a $10,000 failure, a six-figure failure, a multi-million-dollar failure. This is what I can tell you. The more expensive the failure, the less likely you are to repeat it. And so here's what I encourage people to do all over the world. You want to fail as early as you can, as cheap as you can. There are some lessons that don't need to be that expensive. And so early on in your life, you want to be able to say, all right, what are some little things that I can try? What's some low-hanging fruit that I can put myself out there to try? Some people go, oh, man, okay, I'm going to write the book. Why don't you write the post first and see if you get some likes and some comments? Don't go through the whole publishing process. Like you don't want to be trying it out at Barnes & Noble. You could try it online for free right now on Facebook. Like you want to fail as early as you can, as cheap as you can. The third thing that's vitally important for us to understand about chasing failure is that failure loses its punch in community. There's something powerful about when we get together. There's something powerful about having community. There's something powerful about having somebody in your corner that is saying, hey, what if we tried some things together? Because from a psychological standpoint, the issue that a lot of us have with failure is we begin to have a conversation with ourselves about, if I fail, how does this make me look? When we start having a failure conversation, all of us get incredibly selfish. But when we start bringing other people along the journey and we have a community with it, we start going, wait a second. What if we tried some stuff together? If it goes bad, we can absorb that together. If it goes well, we get to share the glory. And again, we've all heard failure isn't an option, but what would you do if I told you it's one that we should choose on purpose because it could actually serve us? And imagine if we taught our kids this. What if we became so excited when they failed, they wouldn't even know what to do with it, but what we are doing is we are actually crafting a culture around failure in our homes that they can actually learn from this instead of running from it. My 9-year-old, he plays basketball last summer. They introduced the three-point line to him, like, okay, now you can take threes. And he had never taken a three-pointer in a game in his life. The score was 20-18 with 10 seconds to go. His team is down 2. Comes off a screen, and he could easily go get a layup. But in this league, they don't do overtime, so they do the draw thing, which means everyone's a loser. In my mind, we're not doing that. And so it's like win or go home, like make a decision. And so he pulls up for a three-pointer for the first time in his life. Because it's like, hey, it's win or go home. And as he's shooting it, I'm going, you've never taken a three before. Like you can't do this. Like, what's going to happen? And it goes in and out. And they lose the game. He starts bawling his eyes out. It's my fault. I rush the floor like it's March Madness, and he's won the championship, and I pick him up, and I'm swinging around. Parents like, what's wrong with you? Your kid just lost. I'm like, no, he didn't. My kid's brave. I'll take it any day. Any day. My son has the gene that is willing to take shots, but you can never make a shot that you're not willing to take. I'll live with it every single day. I told you, I am a failure enthusiast. And I want to encourage you to do this in your home. I want to encourage you to do this in class. I want to encourage you to do this with your team. You want to foster failure-friendly environments. A failure-friendly environment means that you leave margin for other people to make mistakes. You say, hey, I'm just going to leave a little bit of grace, a little bit of margin here for us to not always have to be perfect. Because I wonder how many of us grew up in homes where we had to be perfect. And here we are, building our own new homes, and we're still resenting the home we grew up in. All because someone was making us become something that we didn't even want to be. But this is what you need to know about failure-friendly environments. For you to foster a failure-friendly environment, you have to be a failure-friendly person. By the way, for you to be a failure-friendly person, you have to be a friendly person first. You can't just jump over to failure friendly without being friendly first. You know, like there's some of us, we just live with a constant grumpiness, you know what I mean? And so even right now, I want you to just do a little exercise. It might hurt some of you, but I think you can do it. I just want you to smile at the person next to you, okay? Just smile at them, okay? Just smile at them. I know for some of you, you're like, I don't want to do it, you know? It's like you paid for veneers, you might as well use them. Like, come on, smile a little bit, be friendly. You'd be surprised the kind of environment you can create when you just smile a little bit. Now, anytime that I get a speaking engagement, I always love to share how I got in the room. I went to a private school, but I grew up in a lower income neighborhood. My parents scraped together every dollar they could to get us into this incredible school. When I was in 5th grade, unfortunately, my father suffered a stroke, and our household income was cut in half. Therefore, we were getting ready to enter into the public school system. But there was a freshman English teacher named Mrs. Holstead. Mrs. Holstead went to my mother and she said, hey, Mrs. Leak, we see your son's potential. And so my husband and I have decided to cover their tuition to remain in the school. One of the most generous acts my family has ever received. And it was because of Mrs. Holstead that I got to meet my college basketball coach named Cedric. Cedric allowed me to meet the VP of admissions at that university named Nate Roosh. Nate Roosh called my first boss and got me my first job here in Dallas. While I'm working for Justin, Justin says, hey, man, you're a pretty good communicator. I'm going to call a guy named Kent, a pastor in Chicago, and see if he'll have you speak. So I get on the phone with Kent, and Kent says, hey, man, you sound like a pretty good guy. However, we don't really bring in outside speakers. I said, man, I get that, man. I understand. Yeah, that's understandable. He said, however, because Justin called, we'll roll the dice. I said, hey, man, I appreciate that. So I go speak for Kent in Chicago. I get done speaking for Kent, and this is what he says. He says, hey, man, that was actually pretty good. I went, actually, I'm not offended. That's great. That's great. I don't know what this actually stuff is about, but that's fine. You know, no biggie. That's great. He goes, in fact, it was so good, I'm going to call my friend Steven in Dallas and see if he'll have you speak. So I get on the phone with Steven. Steven says, hey, man, you sound like a great guy, but, man, we don't really bring in outside speakers. I said, man, I hear that's a thing. That sounds about right. He goes, but because Kent called, we'll roll the dice. And while I was speaking for Stephen, a guy named Jason Strand was watching online at a church called Eagle Brook Church in Minnesota. And he calls me and he says, hey, Ryan, we're looking for a teaching pastor. And here's the deal. We don't really bring in, I said, outside speakers. I get it. I know how this rodeo works. I get it. He says, but you know what? But we'll roll the dice. While I was speaking for Jason, one of my favorite clients, Jeff Royce, who happens to have a child that goes to this school, he was watching online and he goes, hey, I hear that you're an executive coach, and you know, let's see if we can make that happen. And so I get on the phone with Jeff, and I don't know if you were hunting or something when we first time for you weren't a failure. But so I get on with Jeff, and then Jeff's like, hey, I said, hey, why don't we do a Zoom call? He goes, I don't want to do a Zoom call. I want to talk in person. I said, well, I live in Dallas and you live in Minnesota, and I'm not coming to Minnesota. So he comes and shops at Legacy, and he's talking about the weather. It was so funny. He's just like, hey, it's cold there. I'm like, yeah, I know. The whole world knows it. You know, it's freezing there. And he's like, yeah, man, it's just so cold, and I just love coming here. And I said, you should move. He goes, I can't just move. I pulled out Zillow. I said, hey, tons of people are doing it. You should try it sometime. And he's like, my kids are in school. I go, man, they got schools in Dallas, man. You'd be surprised. And then like 2 months later, he's like, hey, we're moving. I was like, dude, I was kidding. I didn't know, like, you would actually do it. And so he's like, man, yeah, we're super excited. So he moved to Frisco, joined Legacy. He's like, dude, we gotta have you speak sometime. And so he put in a good word with Jenna, and that's how I got in the room. Now, I would love for people to believe that I just kind of, started from the bottom and now I'm here, but it's just not true. I started from the bottom. I actually had a lot of people help me come up. A lot of people paved the way for me to be in this room. There's other rooms that Jeff and his wonderful wife have paved the way for me to. I have 3 events coming up in March and in April because the Royces have so generously said, hey, we want to sponsor this event so that Ryan Leak can be in the room. If you're going to chase failure well, don't do it alone. In fact, be the kind of person that thinks, how can I leverage what I have for somebody else? You could fall for the trap of going, who's going to help me It's one way to live. It's not a great way to live. Better way to live is to go, who could I help fail today? Who could I help take a risk? Who could I help step out in faith? I think about when Peter walked on water. I always just look at the other disciples that were like, I mean, it's on you, bro, whatever you want to do. But I just have to wonder if there was one guy that was like, let me help you get out the boat. I'm not coming with you, but like, let me just be a little crazy with it. He called you, he ain't called me. It is what it is. I mean, I just wonder what it would look like for us to be those kinds of people that say, hey, I know you're a little crazy, but you know what? All my friends are normal. I kind of like crazy, so can I help? I think about Noah. I just think, man, he's building a boat in a desert where it's never rained. And they're like, Noah, what are you doing? It's coming. Sure, buddy. I'm just thinking, if one guy just goes, he might be crazy, but what if I pick up a hammer and a nail? You might get a spot on the boat. You never know. And so I just think we ought to be the kinds of people that say, man, who in my life could I help achieve a dream? Who in my life could I say, you know what? Maybe you're not crazy. Why not? Live in such a way that you help somebody else be in the room. Every room I'm in, I think, man, it's awesome that we're here. But imagine if you started thinking, who else could I help be in the room because of my influence? Whose breadcrumb slide could you be on in the future if you became a little bit more intentional and decided to be a failure-friendly person? Lesson number 4 that I've learned chasing failure. Failure loses its grip when you just keep moving forward. Life is hard. There will be circumstances that are thrown at you that you are not prepared for. There will be surprise pop quizzes. That's what life will teach you. And in that moment, you will have to make a decision if you are going to give up or if you're going to keep moving forward. But every single time that you keep moving forward, failure begins to loosen its grip on your life. Failure was designed to get you to give up. Failure was designed to get you to take your ball and go to the corner and say, you know what, this isn't for me. But I got to encourage you. This is a phrase we use a lot in our executive coaching practice. Don't wait for Monday. We say don't wait for Monday because Monday is Motivational Monday. Everyone's going to be awesome. When? First thing Monday morning. Like, that's our deal. You know, when you're going to start eating healthier? First thing Monday morning. It's going to be awesome. Like, when we're going to start working out? First thing Monday morning. We're going to get it popped. You know, it's like we've got this idea that we're going to be greater later. I tell everybody, it's like, greater is not going to be, it's not going to be later. Greater's today. Like, give your best right here, right now, because it's what you actually have in front of you. As my wife and I got engaged and married on the same day, our documentary went viral, and we got to go on a couple of different TV shows. We got to go on Good Morning America, The Today Show, and then we got to go on the Queen Latifah Show, where my wife looked at me and she said, hey, babe, me and the Queen have been working on a little surprise for you. And I thought, the Queen, y'all on a first name basis? Like, y'all don't even know each other. Like, what is going on? And she said, hey, so check out this video. On the screen came the late, great Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant said, hey, Ryan. In that moment, I peed on Queen Latifah's couch. I said, wait a minute. I need to know what exactly is going on and how this man knows my name. I started breaking down his words like it was a Bible verse. I said, he said, hey. Hey, in Hebrew, is the breath of God. And that means, and when you say hey to somebody, you know, that's a greeting from one person to another, a friend to a friend. He said, Ryan, well, that's me. Me and Kobe must be friends. I lost my mind. The only reason I even know what he said after blacking out is because I watched it on YouTube 1,000 times. Here's what Kobe Bryant said. He said, hey, Ryan, I heard about this fabulous wedding that you pulled off for your bride, and I just wanted to return the favor and invite you out to Los Angeles to come hang out with me and the Lakers. The invitation has been formally extended to you. You pick the game, and we'll see you in LA. Sincerely, Kobe Bryant. I looked at my wife. I said, baby, you are winning the game. This is absolutely incredible. So I picked a game that was 3 months from the recording of the Queen Latifah show, and that meant I had 3 months to prepare to meet Kobe Bryant. So I began practicing my greeting in the shower. Hey, Kobe. Voice too deep, doing too much. Like, you need to chill out, dude. Like, be yourself. I'm like, what do I wear? Do we go all purple? all gold. Things were getting weird. Wear normal clothes. Do I ask for a photo? The rookie fan mistake. He should be asking me for my photo. Like, I'm just losing it. And then I thought, well, what are we going to talk about? You know, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Like, we're going to get coffee before the game. Kobe Bryant's not going to drink a latte before an NBA game. That's not how that works. I thought maybe we'll eat out afterwards. I'm a generous guy. If we go out to eat, I like to buy. That's just how I roll. Depending on where we're going, you cannot take Kobe to Chipotle. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, our bank accounts are a little bit different anyways. But, you know, I'm like trying to figure out, you know, what is it that we're going to really dive into. I thought, do I tell him I'm a motivational speaker? It's like Kobe Bryant doesn't need any motivation. Do I tell him I'm a filmmaker? He lives in Hollywood. Everybody's a filmmaker. And so I came to the conclusion that the only way that Kobe Bryant and I would have an engaging conversation is if I was in the NBA. Now, for those of us that have not met on the same playing field, the number one thing people tell me whenever I get done speaking is you look a lot taller in person than you look up there. I don't know what the depth perception is for you up there versus me down here, or if I look like Kevin Hart up here to you, but I am 6'3". I was an All-American in college at a D3-ish school. Let me explain the ish, which you will appreciate. There is Division I, your NCAA Division Is, your Michigans, Kentuckys, Dukes, North Carolinas. Then you have your Division IIs and IIIs, the schools most of us have never heard of. The school I went to's D3 status was pending the years that I played. However, we were in what's called the NCCAA, which stands for National Christian Collegiate Athletics Association, which simply means amongst Christians, I'm really good at basketball. Church league MVP is all you need to know about me. Nevertheless, I never pursued a professional basketball career. I pursued what I'm doing right now. However, I would go to NBA games, and I'd be that guy in the arena going, I could do that. Yeah, man, just go right. Just jump higher. You know, it's like in my mind, I could do their job better than they could, but the difference between me and them was that they had tried and I had not. So I started getting back in All-American, D3-ish, church league MVP shape, and I was feeling great. And then a friend of mine who played for the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls were the worst team in the NBA at the time. And my friend, he gets cut from the team and comes back here to Dallas. He was 6'5", 245, 6'3", 200 pounds, and we started working out together at SMU. We played 5 times one-on-one, and he beat me by a considerable margin. And I thought to myself in that moment, if the worst team in the NBA cut this brother, the Los Angeles Lakers are not going to give me a shot. Ryan, you need to just hang this thing up. Don't embarrass yourself, your family, or your friends. Just go to Los Angeles, be a normal person for once, and just move on with your life. And then I thought, well, that was fast. I mean, in one moment you had something you wanted to move towards, and then in another you're doing that professional discouragement thing. You're actually talking yourself out of doing something. If encourage means to put courage in someone, discourage means to take it out. So I thought, man, why are you doing that to yourself? So I began to ask myself this question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? I mean, if we just take failure off the table, wouldn't you give it your best? And so I decided to make a documentary called Chasing Failure, asking this question. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What's the thing you've been thinking about doing for a very long time that you've just put on the back burner? What's the thing that's been on your mind this entire talk? What's the thing that you think, I'm going to do that later, when the kids graduate, when work slows down? Does it ever slow down? After the holidays, after the busy season, except we just moved from one busy season to the next busy season. What's the thing that you would do if you knew you couldn't fail? So when I met Kobe Bryant, I said, hey, Mr. Bryant, I'm doing a documentary called Chasing Failure. And if I knew I couldn't fail, well, I'd be in the NBA. Kobe Bryant was a very focused, intense individual, arms crossed, and he gave me 5 seconds of silence that felt like an eternity. I said, this is a very long silence. And he just looked at me and he goes, Yeah. Do it. I said, do it. Wait. Did you just give me the Nike slogan? Just do it? Like, oh my goodness. Like, what's going on here? Like, I'm thinking, Kobe, wrong answer. Come on, give me the real. Tell me how hard it is. Tell me about 4 a.m. workouts. Tell me about the nutritionist. Tell me what I need to be eating. Tell me how much I need to be lifting. Tell me how fast that I need to be. Tell me how strong I need to be. Tell me about the politics of the game. Come on, give me some behind the scenes of how this thing works. Nah, he just stuck with the Nike slogan. Just do it. And then, all of a sudden, we're in this VIP room in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden, these Make-A-Wish kids started to make their way into this VIP room. And I thought to myself, am I a Make-A-Wish kid? Like, you got to tell somebody that. You can't just spring that up on somebody last minute. You got to have some prep time, you know what I mean? So I said, man, let me let these kids have their time with Kobe. And for the record, Kobe asked for this photo. I said, hey, Kobe, I normally don't do this for everybody, but for you today, I'm going to let it slide. And so as I'm exiting the room, Kobe Bryant says, hey, Ryan. I said, yes, Mr. Bryant. He said, whatever you do, make sure you send me that documentary. I said, is this the moment you want to exchange phone numbers, or you want my people to reach out to your people? I didn't have any people at the time, but I had a mom. She had an email, and she would be happy to email his people this documentary. And so I said, Kobe, don't you worry about it. So now that Kobe Bryant is checking his phone every single day, waiting for me to email him this documentary, I had to actually figure out how to get an NBA workout. Well, for those of you that don't understand how the NBA works, it is the National Basketball Association. This is the top 450 basketball players in the world. They would prefer for you to go to a real school. They would prefer for you to be a little bit taller, a baller. You don't need a girl, you can call her, but that would be, you get it. Like, there's some protocol here. They're not looking for church league MVPs. They are not looking for motivational speakers to boost the morale of the roster. However, I did everything in my power to try and get a workout. And I ran out of options. And when you run out of options and you don't know what to do, I went to Google. And here's what I found. I found public relations emails for every single NBA team. And I started emailing them one by one. I thought, what do you have to lose? So I started with the Boston Celtics, and I said, hey, dear Celtics, I think you got fans all across the city of Boston that are afraid to fail. I don't think they should be. Imagine if you believed in this message enough to give a complete stranger an opportunity to work out for your basketball team. I'll probably fail. But what if I don't? There's only one way for us to find out, and that's for you to let me try. I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, and looking for failure. Sincerely, Brian Lee. I hit send and pretended like it didn't happen. It felt a little illegal, but I didn't put my email on the internet. They did, and so 30 minutes later, I get a buzzing in my pocket, and I got a new email. It's from the Boston Celtics. I said, what in the world? This is what the Celtics said. They said, hey, this is a beautiful story. It's just not for us. Best of luck in your future endeavors. I went, pfft. Really? Ryan, you're a moron. You thought an NBA team would give you a workout from an email? What's wrong with you? This is nuts. Of course they're going to say no. In fact, Ryan, this idea is so bad, they won't let you fail at failing. Think about that for a second. Like, this is the worst idea you could have ever had in your entire life. But then I thought, did the Boston Celtics just email me back? This is awesome. In fact, I'm going to do a documentary about being told no by all 30 NBA teams, and it's going to be amazing. Let's see what we could learn from the word no. I got so excited about rejection, I reached out to Nike on Twitter, or X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And so I get on there, and I just hit up Nike Basketball, and I said, I'm doing this documentary. I think you guys should sponsor it. They said, email John. I emailed John. John's like, what are you up to? I said, I'm trying out for an NBA team. He said, which team? I said, why you got all these questions? I don't know yet. And he's like, well, man, give me your shirt size, shoe size, and send everything, and tell me who your favorite player is. And About 5 days later, about $2,000 worth of Nike gear showed up to my house. And I thought to myself, I'm trying to fail every day for the rest of my life. This is amazing. And as I started emailing more teams, this is what I realized. Lesson number 5. You're only failing if you're failing to learn. You're only failing if you're failing to learn. Every single time I got an email back from an MBA organization, I wasn't getting a rejection. I was getting MBA language that I didn't have before. And so I would actually take their language and actually change my pitch every single email. Sometimes what you have to do is you have to take notes on what's not working. Here's the beauty of this. The beauty of failure is this, is that there is a failure that could have been hanging over your head for the last 5 years, over the last decade. That literally you can look back at it and say, Lord, what is it that you actually want to teach me from this? And now your darkest day has become a learning day, all because you decided to look at it from a different perspective. And so I started changing my pitch, team after team, team after team. Friday morning, I send an email to the Phoenix Suns. Friday afternoon, I get a phone call from an Arizona area code. I was like, oh my God. Hello, this is Ryan. Yes, this is Julie from the Phoenix Suns. I said, hey, Julie, what's up? You good? What's going on? She said, yeah, we got your email. It's a wonderful idea. Come on Monday. And I was like, this Monday? She said, yeah, bring your camera crew. I said, oh, yeah, of course. Anybody doing a documentary, obviously, has a camera crew. I ain't had no camera crew. I had a homie from the church named Chuck. I said, hey, man, let me holler at you for a second. I know we ain't talked a little bit, but we got to go to Phoenix right now. I was a young adults pastor at Covenant Church at the time, and I remember we had an executive meeting every Tuesday. So I go to my pastor at the time, and I say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? He said, yeah. I said, hey, you know that meeting we got on Tuesday? He's like, yeah. I said, I ain't going to be there. He said, where you going to be? I said, Phoenix. He goes, oh, you're speaking out in Phoenix? No, I'm hooping. He was like, what? I go, yeah, I'm playing a little basketball out in Phoenix. He's like, okay. He's like, so, Ryan, what's going on? I said, man, I don't know how to explain this to you. Okay, I've been emailing people that I didn't think were going to email me back, but they did. Dude, long story short, I'm trying out for the Phoenix Suns on Monday and Tuesday. He goes, for real, dude, what are you really doing in Phoenix? I'm like, no, dude, I'm serious. He goes, my young adults pastor is trying out for the Phoenix Suns on Monday and Tuesday. I said, it sounds a little crazier coming out of your mouth, but yeah, that's the scoop, dude. That's where we're at in life right now. He goes, okay, so, he said, Ryan, I got this question for you, though. Like, what happens if you make the team? I said, well, then I'm going to quit, duh. What, you think I'm going to stay here? I can Zoom these young adults. What you talking about? No, don't worry, I'll fail. I'll be back Wednesday. Relax, okay? And so me and Chuck, we get to Phoenix we get to the airport on a Sunday afternoon to go to Phoenix. Phoenix has their largest storm in Phoenix history. Me and Chuck are on 2 separate flights. His flight is the only flight getting out of the DFW airport. I'm in this long line trying to convince a gate agent to let me on this plane. And I watch her tell 100 people no, and I'm taking notes on all of their failures, right? I'm just like, this is not good, this is not looking good. And all of a sudden, it was my turn. I said, all right. I said, hey, ma'am. She goes, how can I help you? I went, okay, here we go. I said, ma'am, I'm no better than anybody else in this terminal. However, I absolutely must be in Phoenix in the morning. She goes, why do you have to be in Phoenix in the morning? I said, man, if we could just turn down this attitude just for a minute. I just need to talk to you for a second. I said, hey, here's the deal. I'm not trying to put my business out here in the streets, okay? But between you and I, the reason I have to be in Phoenix, I promise you, I said it just like this. I said, I have to be in Phoenix in the morning because, well, I'm actually trying out for the Phoenix Suns in the morning. This is what she said. She goes, you play for the Phoenix Suns? Ma'am, you heard what you heard. I said what I said. I can't be in charge of your ears and my mouth at the same time. You're asking me to do a lot right now. It's raining outside. I'm stressed. She gave me somebody's seat. I don't know who is still at DFW trying to get to Phoenix. It's not my problem. Here's what you get to do. You get to go to ryanleak.com, and you can watch a couple different documentaries. I also send out an inspiring and motivating text every single Monday just to keep people inspired. If you sign up for it today, you will not get it because I sent it out at 1 o'clock. But next Monday, you'll get a text. You can text Legacy to 469-809-1201. QR code can take you there, social media, website, all that stuff. Now, when you go see Chasing Failure, what you will notice is that I fit in, which is part of the problem. NBA players don't fit in anywhere. They're outstanding. They stand out for a reason. The reason you'll think that I fit in is because when I got there, I was sprinting for dear life. They were jogging, warming up. It looks the same. It's not the same. Trust me, it's not the same. There is no camp in the world to prepare you for the on-ramp from Lifetime Fitness to an NBA practice court in a weekend. There's levels to it. I promise you that. And so they said, hey, we're going to take you through some NBA standard drills. NBA standard is you're going to take 20 shots. You need to make 18 out of 20. I was making about 14 or 16 out of 20. I'm very good. But on this day, I was not very NBA. Then they say, hey, we're going to do a conditioning drill. I said, great. They said, hey, it's a 3-minute drill. I said, no biggie. It's 3 minutes. Doesn't sound terribly long, you know. He's like, okay, so this is how the 3-minute drill works. An NBA court is 94 feet. Down is 1, back is 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The goal is to get 30 in 3 minutes. You should try it sometime. It's really fun. So they say, hey, Ron, would you like to get a drink of water? I said, absolutely, that's what we're going to do. Well, I'm going to drink of water. One of these little slick coaches says, hey, why don't we put Ryan's score up on the scoreboard so the whole team can see how many down and backs he's got? I said, that's unnecessary. I can count just fine. I'll tell you how many I got at the end of the drill. And then the clock starts. I take off running as fast as I can. I was running like the wind. And one of the players goes, whew, started off way too fast, brother, way too fast. And I'm thinking, how could you be going too fast in this drill? And at that 90-second mark, I learned really fast what he was talking about going really fast. And at that moment, I hit every kind of wall you could think of. Spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. I could barely walk, couldn't feel my legs, couldn't feel my back. I needed all the help our great nation can offer a human being. Call the firefighters, call the police, EMT, get the Navy SEALs in here. Somebody come save my life. I have made a terrible decision to have my death filmed on an NBA practice court, and I invited my friend Chuck to capture it on tape. This is the worst idea I have ever had in my entire life. The coach is like, you can throw up later, Ryan. I'm like, I can throw up now. Jeff, leave me alone. I mean, it was so embarrassing. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to tell my friends this. We're going to burn the tape. We're going to lie the rest of our lives. We're going to say, we didn't make it, guys. It was a crazy storm, man. That's how life happens. Life's full of storms. And so I just had this whole thing rehearsed of I will never share this story. And then I put my head down because that is the posture of rejection. It's the posture of failure. You don't want to look anybody in the eye. And so I'm literally hobbling up and down the court. I am fully embarrassed. And as I'm hobbling up and down the court, I begin to see this logo. Normally, it's a Lifetime Fitness logo. However, on this particular Monday afternoon, it was the Phoenix Suns logo. And I asked myself this: how'd you get in this room? How'd you get here? There's a lot of places you could be on a Monday afternoon. And I realized lesson number 6, chasing failure could take you further than chasing success ever could. Because there's something powerful about putting yourself out there and it not going well. You did the thing that most people are too afraid to do, but you tried. And so you got something that they didn't experience. And then you do it that you can. And you put yourself out there and you record another episode and you hire another person and you come up with another idea and you pitch again and you propose again and you sell again. And you do that long enough, one day you wake up and you go, I'm a lot further than I used to be. All because I was willing to fail things most people are just too afraid to try. Hindsight's 2020. I used to believe that NBA teams don't give workouts to complete strangers with convincing emails because that's not how the NBA works. But here's what I learned in Phoenix. She said, she looked at me when I got there, and the public relations director, when I got there, as I'm walking into the gym, she starts laughing. And I was like, I don't see what's funny. right now. She said, we would never do this in a million years. And I went, then why am I here? She said, your email came on the right day, at the right time. Here's what I believe. You'll never know if you're an exception to a rule until you're willing to do something exceptional. Second thing that I've learned, now that I get to work with about 5 NBA teams, is that there's more than one way to be in the NBA. And they've got all sorts of ways that you can add value to players, coaches, and executives in their organization. But I would never know that if I wasn't willing to send a scary email. So I'm going to ask you one more time, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? It's a question you should ask yourself. It's a question you should ask your children. And I'm going to tell you what Kobe Bryant told me. Just do it. My friends, my name is Ryan Leak, and it was a pleasure being in your space tonight.
Let's thank Ryan for coming. How amazing. Thank you, man. That was awesome.